Welcome to the Power of Your Mind podcast. I'm Victoria Gallagher, your host. Have you been attempting to use law of attraction or hypnosis to attract financial abundance, a soulmate, or career success? Would you like to be happy, motivated, and successful? Have better health, enjoy more fulfilling relationships, overcome struggle, and gain mastery over your life? Then join me on this amazing self-help podcast where you'll unleash the power of your mind. I'll be sharing 20 years of wisdom and techniques of hypnotherapy, law of attraction, visualization, meditation, personal growth, positive affirmations, and other effective methods to help you tap into the great power which resides in your mind and become the best version of yourself. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 108. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and #1 best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction, Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. And I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Sara Safari. Sara Safari is an author, speaker, mountain climber, college professor, electrical engineer, and an advocate for women's empowerment. She has received the award for Global Citizen from United Nations Association in 2015. She's a board member and director of development in Empower Nepali Girls Foundation. She also has received the award for outstanding practice with broad impact in the area of women and leadership from International Leadership Association in 2017. Sara will be the first Iranian in history to climb the 7 summits, the 7 highest peaks in each continent. She is climbing to raise funds for 7 organizations who are empowering women. She published her books, Follow My Footsteps, Above the Mountain Shadows, and Making a Difference, to share her story with the world. She is working on a featured film and a documentary with a talented team of directors and producers who have extensive experience working on complex social justice issues. And she can be found on climbYourEverest.org and youtube.com. Her book is Above Mountain Shadows, that can also be found on Amazon. And today, Sara is going to be sharing some of her insights on climbing the 7 summits to empower women. So welcome to the show, Sara.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the extensive introduction.
You're welcome. My pleasure. You are quite an accomplished young lady, and I am really, really honored to have you on our show. I can't wait to dive in to your story and, really get your insights on how you are tapping into the power of your mind to make these amazing summit climbs. I saw a little bit of your TED Talk, and I started learning a little bit about your story. So I'm really interested to find out a little bit more about that. So thanks again for being on the Power of Your Mind podcast and gracing us with your story. It's amazing, really amazing.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. This is one of my favorite things to do in the world is to be able to share my story with the rest of the world in the hopes of maybe I can empower and inspire just one person at a time. So this is a great opportunity for both of us, I guess, to empower and inspire people who are listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, let's just dive right in. What was it that caused you to, what was it that inspired you to get involved with Empower Nepali Girls?
I was just a simple electrical engineer with a 9 to 5 job and, teaching at two different universities. And I wanted to climb Everest, but it was such a big dream. And I kept failing and never summiting any mountain. And I was about to quit mountain climbing completely until I met the founder of organization Empower Nepali Girls, Dr. Cutler, and he told me how the girls in Nepal become victims of human trafficking or are forced to get married at a very young age. And until that moment, I wasn't aware of this is happening on the other side of the planet. And just hearing their stories was so moving that I couldn't go back to my normal life knowing this is happening on the other side of the planet. So it was very natural for me to promise the organization that I'm going to raise funds for these girls so that they can continue their education. And since I was about to quit mountain climbing, I promised them that I raise $1 per foot of any mountain that I climb from this point on, including Everest, to raise funds and awareness for these girls, to provide education for them. And then I realized how easy it is to make a difference in Nepal. The cost for one girl to go to school one whole year is $170. Like if a group of us here, go out to dinner, we are going to spend $170 on dinner and drinks. And for them, it's like a whole year of a school. So
oh, wow. I had no idea. That is crazy.
Yeah. And then I heard these numbers and the stories from these girls and how they disappear, they get kidnapped, they end up in brothels, they get raped. I couldn't go back to my normal life knowing this is happening. And it was my first introduction. I mean, I grew up in Iran. I experienced firsthand the oppressive, restrictive environment that makes gender discrimination possible. But growing up, I thought that's the normal of the world. I thought the whole world is experiencing the same thing as me. This is what happens to women. They cannot do things as men. And I moved to the United States, and that's when I realized, oh my God, I had no idea. And
quite a different lifestyle here. Yeah. I mean, we definitely have a lot to be grateful for here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And
it's a shame. It's just awful what goes on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really heartbreaking to hear so much of the human trafficking. It really, really breaks my heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I guess I grew up and I became more aware of the world around me and the social justice issues that are happening. And then I was ready for change. I was ready to move on to the next level in my life. I was tired of being just a simple 9 to 5 job, just, only taking care of myself. Because my goal until that point in life was just getting a house, getting a car, get married, have 2 kids. And that's the end. That was the end of it for me. I thought, this is it. If I just do that, I'll be a successful person. And then that day, my whole life changed right in front of my face. I realized that the goals that I had in my life, which was a house and a car and 2 kids, they're not enough. They're just for me. That's too selfish. Why am I want to live such a small life? I'm going to expand it. It's not going to be about me anymore. It's going to be about others. And that was a turning point in my life and completely changed every levels of my life. I had to grow so much to be able to fit that goal because I was still small and my goal was big. And I just had to grow and grow and grow and grow. And that's when the power of mindset that you were talking about comes into play, because without that, we cannot grow.
That it's really amazing. And I love that you are talking about how, number one, it's not just about living for yourself. It's about, I believe that each one of us kind of came into this world. We were born here with a seed of some maybe purpose that we're meant to fulfill. And it's not about just living for ourselves. It's about what kind of an impact can I make? And but most people, I think, are afraid to admit that or figure that out or step into that because they don't know how. But I believe it's because they don't know how with their present level of awareness, their present level of mindset, their present level of growth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is that naturally, us humans, we want to help. Like when we are kids, we see someone having a problem, we want to help. We just go towards that person. And it's very normal, it's very natural. And when we grow up, we become more and more selfish. We decide to direct all our resources just towards ourselves. And then, so I think this is just a very normal, natural process that everybody goes through this. And I think the next level would be people see the benefit in helping others for themselves, because we cannot live fully our full potential until we start giving to somebody who cannot give back to us. And that's how I felt. And this can have some maybe religious backgrounds, because I grew up in a very Islamic country. I don't practice that anymore, but I grew up all my life hearing how it is good to help others. And I saw my parents and my aunts and uncles helping others. So that can have some childhood background also, some just growing up where I grew up, in the family that I grew up, my background. But at the same time, as an adult, not coming from past, I realized what really makes me happy and fulfilled and satisfied in life is to help someone that cannot help me back.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So what was it that made you decide to climb Mount Everest? That just seems like, for most people, that's just not even a conceivable idea to think about climbing. How high is the summit? Like 28,000 feet? 29,000. It's almost inconceivable for most people. So what was it that gave you the idea that, you wanted to climb that? Why did you decide that was the one you were going to start climbing? I'd love to hear a little bit more of the story. I saw a little bit on your TEDx talk. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what happened there.
I was a very shy person with zero self-confidence. I learned all my life to be passive and follow instructions. And when we moved to the United States, I realized how different I am with my classmates. Like I was extremely shy. I couldn't even do a simple presentation for my own classmates. And I decided to participate in a seminar just to work on myself. Mm-hmm. And in the seminar, it was a leadership kind of a seminar, interpersonal communication. Mm-hmm. And the leader of the seminar said, come up with a project so big and huge beyond yourself, something impossible, something that you can't even think of doing in your wildest dreams. And do that. And I couldn't think of anything. Somebody behind me started talking about Everest, and I just heard the word Everest, and I thought that's perfect. I hate cold weather. I've never been hiking or climbing before. I've never slept in a sleeping bag. I don't even have a pair of hiking boots That's
Oh
what I
my
want.
goodness.
That's
Wow.
impossible. And you know what? It's 7 years that I've been trying to summit Everest. I still haven't achieved it. And now it is just the name of the game. The name of the game is Everest. And all of us in our lives have Everests. Our relationships with our loved ones, promotion and job, education, like everything, every day that is getting, right now, our Everest is staying healthy and not getting the coronavirus. That's our Everest for everybody all over the world.
Yep.
And I think that having big goals and achieving them, it's just when you have a goal that is really big and you are doing your best and doing your 100% to achieve that, it just makes you grow bigger than yourself. And that's why, like, I guess what still pulls me towards Everest, and I still haven't summited the mountain, and I'm still trying, but what still after 7 years pulls me towards it is that it's a big goal, and going towards a big goal makes me be bigger.
Yeah. And will you summit it one day?
I'm not attached to it. The fact that I'm trying at it, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep trying. Somehow, secretly, I think I don't want to summit it because that would be the end of the Everest project.
That's interesting. How many attempts have you made?
Well, 1 year, the first year, the earthquake happened, the one that I speak about in my TEDx talk. And then the second year, before I was planning to go climb it, then my husband filed for divorce. So then I had to stay and take care of the paperwork and all that. So I couldn't go. The third time, I broke my arm and I couldn't go. And the fourth time is this year that the pandemic happened and they closed down the whole mountain.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So you've been, if I'm counting correctly, you've been there to climb it once. And then the other 3 times, the divorce, the broken arm, and the pandemic, you couldn't even get there to even give it a try.
2 other times I went all the way to the base camp, but didn't go higher than the base camp. Base camp is 17,500 feet, so
that's still pretty high.
more than halfway. But it's but still, the main part of the mountain is after the base camp.
Right. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that experience when you made your first attempt and the avalanche happened. Tell us a little bit about that.
It takes 60 days to climb Everest. The first 30 days, it's people just go up and down to get acclimatized. And mostly we go only up to Camp 1. And that's only 20,000 feet. The summit is 29, but the first 30 days, we really go as 20,000 feet because it's just practice and acclimatization because of the lack of oxygen. And the hardest part of the mountain, the most technical, unstable part of the mountain that a lot of people are scared of is Khumbu Icefall, which is between 17,000 and 20,000 feet, right at the beginning, right after the base camp.
Okay.
And that's exactly where I was when the earthquake happened.
Now, what is scary about that part? What is it? And so you start at 17 and you go to 20 and you keep doing that like on a daily basis or
like every 2-3 days.
Every 2-3 days.
Up and down. Yeah, we go up and down until the body is acclimatized. There are 50 ladders over crevasses. The scary part about Khumbu is crossing those ladders. Because if you fall down any of ladders into crevasses, that's it. I mean, and I have pictures and videos on my YouTube and my social media. If people search, they can find all of that. pretty scary, because if you fall, that's it. That's the end of it, because it's so deep that you can't even see the bottom of these crevasses. And mostly they're not going to even come to rescue you.
Well, you have just destroyed my Mount Everest dreams, because there's no freaking way I could
after the base camp.
Yeah, no, I mean, because like I've gone, I love hiking, and but like even the swing bridges, those I have such a fear of heights, and I'll go over a swing bridge, but boy, it takes everything in me to muster up the courage just to go over a swing bridge. That's probably like 100 times safer than what you're talking about. If you find value in this personal growth related material, I strongly recommend that you sign up for your $1 trial to my Personal Growth Club. Just head on over to personalgrowthclub.com and get a whole month of premium Personal Growth Club video training materials, meditations. You also get 6 free hypnosis sessions that are valued at over $174, all for this trial of just $1. Even if you cancel, you can keep the 6 hypnosis sessions. That's my gift to you, and that's how confident I am that you are going to love Personal Growth Club. Go to personalgrowthclub.com and start your $1 1-month trial today.
Well, I take a group of people every year. I've been in Nepal 8 times. Every year I take a group of people to Nepal. Yeah. And I've taken my aunt, she's 64, to Everest, not the base camp, but in Everest region. I've taken people who are like 74, 75 to Everest base camp. So a lot of people can go to Everest base camp. Everest base camp is not that hard. It's just walking.
Yeah.
But after the base camp, it's very technical. So
yeah. Oh, okay. So please continue. This is good. I love hearing about this.
Thank you. So I was around at like 20,000 feet when the earthquake happened, and I was on a ladder. There were 5 ladders connected to each other. And I was on top of the 5th one on a wall, on a piece of ice. And the wall that I'm describing, like for people who cannot imagine, they can use, for imagination, they can use, if you watch Game of Thrones, that ice wall that they had to climb, and that's very similar to that. So imagine a wall of ice and you're climbing it, and there's a ladder, you're climbing the ladder, and then you climb the wall, and then you pass the edge. And then you move on. There's just 50 ladders to cross. I was on a wall. I finished the 5th ladder, and I was about to pass the wall to pass the edge when the 7.8 earthquake struck Nepal. And the whole wall was shaking left and right and left and right. And
oh my goodness. And you're on the wall, like on the oh my goodness.
And so I'm roped up to the ladder and to the wall and everything, but the movement was just so big that at any moment I thought, oh my God, I'm just going to fall down the wall and into a crevasse, because there was a crevasse down there. And that's it. That's the end of it. But then the whole movement, there was just so much snow and debris, because Khumbu Icefall, there is pieces of ice the size of a 3-floor building hanging in 45 degrees. So even without a 7.8 earthquake, if you're walking there, any piece of ice can break down and fall on you, and that's the end of it. So now add a 7.8 earthquake and 20,000 feet elevation and lack of oxygen, and all that together on a wall. So everything was moving and shaking, and pieces of ice the size of a car were tumbling down the mountain on my left and right. ice towers were breaking down, and the noise that they made was like a rocket taking off next to my ears. It was
my goodness.
so loud. Like I'm standing on a runway and a commercial plane is taking off.
Oh my goodness. What are you thinking?
I was so scared. I was extremely scared. I was just trying to think, how can I survive this? What should I do? So I climbed up. I passed the edge. I clipped myself to the anchor, but I saw the snow is building up on me. So I thought, this is it. I'm on the route of the avalanche. And I mean, I wasn't. That's why I'm alive. But at that moment, I thought the avalanche is coming and I'm on its way. So I'm just going to be falling down and I'm going to be buried alive under the snow.
Oh my goodness.
And I saw my whole life right in front of me. I just saw my parents grieving, like wearing black shirts for the rest of their lives. I just saw my whole childhood while I'm doing other things. So while I'm doing this, I can't see anything. I can't breathe. I'm gasping for air. I was like trying to just get some air in so I don't pass out. And I'm just guessing everything because I can't even see in front of my face. And I wrapped the rope around my arms. I'm kicking my feet into the ice and the snow to fix my feet. And at one moment, I thought, the avalanche is much stronger than anything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I just need to stop. And there was this moment that I accepted that this is how I'm going to go. And when I just thought, okay, well, that's how it's going to end. Everything is stopped. The earthquake is stopped. I couldn't move. I was shaking so badly that I couldn't even get up. I was just I fixated myself on the ice that I didn't feel safe and stable to even get up or stand. And the rest of the team, because I was in the middle of the team, there were people behind me and there were people ahead of me. We all gathered up. We had to continue up. This is 2 chapters of my book because, it's like so much detailed getting to the next camp. And we couldn't go back down because all the ladders were unstable. So we had to continue up, going to the next camp. And then when people saw us in the next camp, they were so shocked because the way we survived, the place that we were, it's like so unique and rare that people survive that. And it was just, and that's when, it took me some time. I was extremely traumatized. It took me a long time to recover. But that's when I decided to dedicate my life to women's empowerment because I realized there was no way that I could survive that. There should have been a reason for me to stay alive.
Yes.
And I'm just gonna continue doing what I'm doing for the rest of my life. But coming back home, I felt extremely guilty because, we came back after 8 days of, it took us 8 days to go back to Kathmandu finally. And I was very angry because I just raised money for the girls to continue their education, but they lost everything.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's awful. Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at that point, they are even more at risk for human trafficking because when the disaster hits, that's the perfect time for traffickers to go to their families and say, you know what? You want one less child to feed? We're going to take her to this town and she's going to find a job. But really, they end up in brothels. And
oh my goodness.
I was extremely scared. I was just trying to find everybody. The whole organization, all of us. And finally, we made sure that everybody's safe and sound and the families know that we're going to take care of them. And like by now, that was 2015. It was 5 years ago. But everybody's fine and good. And well, they are in lockdown right now, but they were continuing their education until a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, and definitely your life was spared for a big purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was extremely traumatized when I came back here to California. I kept having bad dreams, and finally I decided to write. I decided to write and write and write my heart out, everything that I felt, everything that I was, got me to that point in my life. Stories of the girls in Nepal, stories of my childhood in Iran, stories of climbing and failing and never making it to any summit until I decided to climb for Empower Nepali Girls. So after I decided to climb for Empower Nepali Girls, somehow I started summiting mountains. Before that day, zero summit. After that day, I made it to top of all the mountains that I tried, except Everest, of course. But
what are the names of the other summits?
Okay, so so afterwards, after the earthquake, I decided I didn't want to teach the girls to quit. So I announced again that I'm going to go back and climb Everest again. And I said, I'm going to add 6 more mountains to my Everest. So it's going to be 7 summits, the 7 highest peaks. And I realized there is no other Iranian in the world who done the 7 summits, not even an Iranian man. So I thought that would be the best way to empower Iranian women too. It's going to be like one of the first things that an Iranian woman did it before an Iranian man. So I thought that would be very empowering for women. And
absolutely.
So the 6 other mountains that I summited are Denali, the highest peak in North America, in Alaska; Kilimanjaro, the highest peak in Africa; Elbrus, the highest peak in Europe; Carsten's Pyramid, the highest peak in Oceania and Australia; Aconcagua, the highest peak in South America; and Mount Vinson, the highest peak in Antarctica. And
wow, that is amazing.
And the highest I've ever been is Chuoyu, which is the 6th highest mountain in the world, 27,000 feet. It's next to Everest. And
are these summits, peaks, are they as how would you rate them challenging compared to doing Everest? I mean, did they still present, like, do they have all the ladders and all the things that you described there as well, or?
Some of them are not as technical, but most of them, they have, like, for example, Denali in Alaska. There are people who say Denali is harder than Everest because it's very technical. You have to carry 80 pounds on your back. Like for me, I'm only 120 pounds. So carrying 80 pounds, climbing a straight wall, it's imagine I'm carrying myself up the mountain at like 16,000 feet. So it's much harder than Everest. In Everest, we can hire porters who help us with our weight, at least half of our weight. And for those of people who just got angry hearing the sentence, they like to do that because this is their only way of making money all year. This year, because of pandemic, that they closed down the whole mountain, people are starving because they don't have any other way other than carrying weight to make money. So for people who are angry at mountain climbers for hiring people to carry their weight, this is their only way of living. They're starving right now because Everest is closed down.
I can't even imagine why that would anger somebody. I mean, just like the way hearing you explain it, it makes perfect sense. That's just what they choose to do. That's their choice. That's their livelihood. That's how they make a living. So that.
I mean, I've been in talks in different places, and people ask me about it,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of, by asking, they're criticizing it. And so that's why when I talk about that, I explain it, because I have a lot of Nepali friends who are porters and Sherpas who do that for a living. And
Yeah.
when we are not there, they keep telling us, bring your friends to Nepal. We want to take you to this mountain and that mountain. We want to help you. So this is they love it. They like it. But maybe from outside, for people who don't know about the life in Nepal, like hiring people to carry your stuff sounds like you are, you're belittling them, I guess. I don't know what they really think, but I mean, that's
Right.
their job, and they're happy about it.
Right.
And
Well, I mean, on a much
friends.
larger scale, it's not much different than, I mean on a much larger scale, but like, when you go to a hotel and you pay somebody to carry your bags to your room,
Yeah.
we don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying that. So
Yeah.
I say it just as a disclaimer for people who just heard that and got angry.
Yeah. And maybe there's a blind spot that I don't know about that, where people have a problem, but I can't really imagine what that is. So that's interesting. So what is it about climbing mountains? What has it taught you?
A lot. I can talk about this and answer these questions for hours.
Mm-hmm.
The nature, being in nature and climbing mountain is a very humbling experience. We realize how powerless we are and how everything is so uncertain, because at any moment, anything can go wrong. From the weather, from the mountain, from an avalanche, from so many things can go wrong at any point of time, that you really have to surrender and let go of control. Because a lot of people during the pandemic, the main problem that they had was the control issues. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, and in real life we really don't know what's going to happen at any moment. It's not like we exactly know what's going on. Most of the time we don't know. We are driving and we might have an accident. We are going for a bike ride and somebody's drunk, and that's it. So I think the main thing that I got from the mountains, climbing, being in the nature, is that you have no idea what's going to happen the next second. So use this moment that you have the best way that you can. And just and I realized I don't really need much to be happy and fulfilled and excited. Like in a tent, because of my size, I cannot carry much. Maybe 1 or 2 shirts and like very small little things to carry with me around. I mean, I still carry 80 pounds, but that's for survival. That's my sleeping bag and my tent and my food for 20 days. So I think I realized that I don't need much to be happy.
Right.
So when the pandemic hit and people were like, how are you doing? I said, well, I have a shower and a pillow. Yeah, I lost all my speaking engagement, got canceled all over the world. I had to change my lifestyle overnight, but I have a pillow, I have a shower, and it seems like I have food and toilet paper. I think I'm handling this. I mean, I'm still alive, and I learned to be thankful. I learned to appreciate my opportunities, especially like going to all these countries and meeting all these strong, amazing women who are dealing with so much hardship, but they are so resilient and strong. And I think as human beings, we are very resilient. We need to reach down internally and find it and exercise it, because we all have it. Like we have so much power in our body and mind, physically and mentally, and we don't use it because we are living such a comfortable, luxurious, nice life here in the United States, or I mean, in Western countries in general. And most of us, like when we hit the traffic or something simple happens, we completely lose it. And I don't want to minimize what people are dealing with right now, but it's 100 times worse in Nepal. I talk with my friends in Nepal, and they say people here are dying from starvation, not from pandemic. It's just because they don't have jobs and stuff.
That's awful.
There are no tourists that can go to Nepal anymore, so they're not making any money. So I think but to answer your question, I learned from mountains, from visiting all these countries, to meeting all these beautiful, powerful ladies, to appreciate life, to not take life for granted, to know that everything is so uncertain and that I don't even know about my next moment. I think I'm going to be alive for the rest of today, but I really have no idea. And the security is just a big illusion that people think they are very secure, but really we have no idea. If one of these volcanoes around here decided to go up right now, that's about it.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah.
And just I learned from mountains to live with that.
Hello, this is Victoria Gallagher. I hope you're enjoying listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. As a way of thanking you for listening, I'd like to offer you a one-time discount of 35% off your first order at hiptalk.com. Just go to hiptalk.com and enter the code PODCAST in the discount code area in your cart, and you'll receive 35% off your first order. Thank you so much for listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. You know, I think it's a great. I think it's a great lesson in, you know, and uncertainty is a great teacher, because I mean the thing is that we kind of come to have these expectations and these attachments to things, and all of it is, you know, is subject to change at any moment. And I would also like to think that, you know, when you're climbing a mountain, you're dealing with unpredictable situations, circumstances, weather, climate. You know, it probably teaches you to have to adapt to things quickly and you know and navigate a new path that, you know, maybe gets changed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just, I think in general, being in the nature is a very good lesson for everybody. I mean, for me, every time it's a very humbling experience. So that's why I think it's very important for people to just, I mean, I wasn't a hiking or a hiker or a climber or anything. I mean, in my whole family and extended family, we don't have a climber. I mean, my parents don't even work out. So I've never seen such a thing. And I mean, and then I had to kind of generate it, create it, design this whole thing by itself. And every day, because I'm putting myself in a situation that is so new and I have no idea how to deal with it or handle it, I'm learning so much out of it.
Yeah.
And I fail and I fail and I fail and I fail. But fail doesn't mean anything in nature. It's just, I don't know, another thing. Like, and I changed my whole relationship with failing. It's not negative anymore. For me, it's just another step.
Yeah. Speak to that a little bit, like, because so many people put so much weight on, you know, succeeding and failing. And so when you fail, like, what does that what does it mean in terms of why do you think that that's important to understand?
I think it's very natural because we all grow up in elementary school. We get a B, and they're like, "No, you should have gotten an A. Got an A. A is better than B, and B is better than C." And then what? Look at your friend; she is doing this thing better than you. So the comparison that we learn during our childhood, and all of us went through that. This is like a whole planet went through something together. So we made it mean that failing is bad, and failing, it means that I'm not good enough and I'm not loved. And this is the two biggest fears that people have. I was listening to Tony Robbins last week, and that's what he said. He said the two biggest fears that people had in their life is I'm not good enough, and I'm not loved enough, or I'm not loved. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That the failure hits that. The failure really reached out to inside us and plays with those two big fears. And I think that's why we make it mean so much. We make it mean that we are the failure becomes. We make it very personal. We make it mean that I am a failure rather than, oh, this thing just didn't go through. That's about it. So for me, I kept failing and failing and failing, not summiting the mountains, not raising the funds as much as I wanted to. And I went to these events that I organized, and only 2 people donated. And I went on this stage to speak, and not many people showed up, and I couldn't sell tickets, and then all these things that we call it failure. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm looking back at the past 7 years that I've been doing this, and I realized that was just another step towards learning. I just learned new lessons. I just realized that, oh, this thing doesn't work. I have to do it in a different way. And there are so many examples in the history, if you look back, of very successful people, CEOs, presidents, that they failed way more than they succeeded. And that's normal. Mm-hmm. That's natural. You just have to look at it differently.
Yeah. In NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, there's a presupposition that says there's no such thing as failure, only feedback.
Exactly.
And yeah, so, the more we fail, it was kind of like that when I, would make cold calls back when I was a stockbroker. Not every person is going to, be a client for you. But every person that you talk to gets you that, you learn from that experience, and you take something, and it gets you that much closer to what it is that you're ultimately wanting to accomplish.
Exactly. Yeah, totally agree with you.
Yeah. So why do you think it's important for people to try challenging things and to take risks in their life?
Because human beings will be satisfied and fulfilled when they progress, when they learn, when they grow. Mm-hmm. Like when I summit a mountain, when I'm standing on top of the mountain, the ecstasy and the happiness that I'm feeling lasts me only maybe 5 days, mm-hmm. and then maybe 2 weeks. But then after that, I'm like, okay, done with mm-hmm. this one. What is the next one? So I think that if we really look inside and speculate and be honest with ourselves, in reality, all of us are the same. If we are not progressing, if we are not moving, it's all about the movement, being in movement. If we are not moving, we are not going to be happy. And you can tell from all these examples of people who had fame and money and everything, and they killed themselves, So for me, it's all about progress. I just want to take steps every day. And I have my own days. I have days that I just want to sit under the blanket and do nothing and binge watch Netflix, or do like two random things. But then that's okay. We are human beings. At the end of the day, humans are like that. We have emotions, we go up and down, but we are only happy and satisfied when we progress, when we grow, when we move. So
Yeah.
it's all about the movement. It's not about the top of the mountain. It's about climbing.
It really is, because like you said, I mean, it's very temporary, the feeling of happiness and satisfaction that you get from achieving the goal. It's like when we go on vacation and you get so excited when you're planning out the vacation, and you get so excited when you're like, okay, tomorrow's the vacation, and you're getting ready to go on vacation, and all of that stuff's exciting. But there's, there's never really that moment of the summit of the vacation. It's like, when do I get to finally have that that satisfaction? Is it that moment that I laid my towel out on the beach and I laid down on the towel? Like, what is that moment? And so we have to appreciate, I think, what you're trying to share with us here is that we have to appreciate each in every moment and use each moment as an opportunity to propel us forward, to move forward. And, it's not about just standing on top of the mountain, but it's every step on the way up the mountain that's important.
Exactly. Totally.
So you wrote a book, you've written several books, but tell us a little bit about your book, Above the Mountain's Shadow, A Journey of Hope and Adventure, inspired by the forgotten.
So when I came down the mountain after the earthquake, being traumatized, and I was writing before that, but I never wanted to write a book. I just I kept journals all my life, really. And after the earthquake happened, I realized this is a perfect chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, now I have a book. I mean, because I had a very dramatic story, the way I survived, it was just so impossible surviving that incident, that I thought, I have to share this with the rest of the world. I have to share my mission. I have to share my childhood. I have to share the story of other women in Iran that having the same struggles as me, and nobody knows their story. I want to share the stories of Nepali girls that nobody there knows their story. And as a woman mountain climber, what are our challenges? Because this is a men's sport, and that there are a lot of incidents that, the men are not as supportive as they could be toward women. And I mean, there are amazing mountain climbers out there, kind, supportive people, but there are people who don't get it why women are on the mountain, and they try to discourage you and, kind of get rid of you. And I just had to share that as a woman who experienced discrimination all my childhood, and when I was a teenager up to 20, that's when I moved to the United States. I just said, I want to share the stories of women and all their struggles. And as a new adventurer, as a person who have never climbed anything and suddenly wants to climb Mount Everest, what are the challenges? What are the steps? What if somebody else, a man or a woman, wants to climb Everest and they don't know where to start from? I wanted to help those people who are adventurers and they're thinking about traveling to Nepal and exploring Nepal. I wanted to talk to those people who are interested in the history of Iran and a girl child growing up in Iran. I wanted to share my stories with people who are immigrated to the United States and they're shocked by culture and the language and everything that they don't know, and they have to start learning like a 1-year-old at the age of 20. I just wanted to talk with all these people and share my stories with them. So each chapter is kind of addressing one of these people, but the whole thing is a story of my life growing up and climbing, and why I was climbing, and what motivated me, what inspired me, and the number of times that I failed and how I got up again and I failed again and I got up again, and just like all these stories of success and failure. And a lot of personal stories that I didn't want to share at the beginning with the rest of the world. So I deleted a bunch of chapters, but then I rewrote them because I thought the stories are powerful when you really make yourself vulnerable and you say things that you didn't want to say.
Absolutely.
And it was such an experience, very powerful experience. I felt so much liberty. It was a very liberating experience after sharing the stories that I didn't want to share with anybody, with the whole world in 1 second. And for those people who are thinking about publishing their book, I think you should definitely do it. It's a very powerful, and I see your books back there on your stand, and I think it's such an amazing experience. So if you're thinking about it, do it. It's amazing.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That is amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story here with us. And your book is available now on Amazon. Is that correct?
Yeah. And all the profit from the book goes to Empower Nepali Girls.
Oh, well, that's even better. That's amazing. I just really honor you as a person and what you're doing for the Nepali girls. I just think it's amazing that you've dedicated your life to this whole, and I see you, I definitely see you summiting that, and I know you're not attached to that, but I know you'll get there. And so I absolutely support what you're doing, and I hope our listeners of Power of Your Mind podcast will take this opportunity right now to go and grab a copy of your book and support these girls. The book, Above the Mountain Shadow, A Journey of Hope and Adventure Inspired by the Forgotten. It's an amazing story and sounds like it's an amazing book. And I just wish you continued success on your journey, and this cause that you're definitely making a dent in just continues to get worldwide support. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to hearing the podcast myself. Yes, very cool.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends. And once again, be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast if not already. We can be found as Hip Talk on all our social media accounts. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course at hiptalk.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast, and you'll be instantly notified the moment the next podcast becomes available. Also, please be sure to leave a rating and a review to tell us how you're enjoying these episodes, and that way you're making a contribution toward others getting to share in this valuable information. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast, brought to you by HipTalk.com, Personal Growth Club, and HypnoCloud apps available at iTunes.